Hello and welcome all the participants of the EDU 1107 workshop. My name is Kevin Dunbar and I'm going to be doing just a quick thorough analysis of the topic social cognitive. Now before I get started, to everybody here in the audience and all the viewing audience online, if there's anyone out there that does not speak the English language, I want to let you know that we do have plans to put up another PowerPoint with video and pictures explaining some of the concepts that we have. For those of you who do speak English, we're going to get started, and the purpose of this presentation is just to uncover the term social cognitive and just to get you to recognize some of the concepts so that you can hopefully manage your class better or better instruct your students. Now, as I do this, there are going to be a few questions I want you to respond to, and we'll get to that in a second. But first, I just want to get into the definition of social cognitive, and it's basically learning through imitation. Okay, the whole idea that people learn by watching others. Some examples are, babies, they learn to walk and talk, and some of their behaviors that they learn come from seeing other people doing things. Like dancing, you take a routine, you watch it for a while, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and you get the routine. And most recently, the whole onslaught of YouTube, you can easily just click on YouTube and find out how to do something step by step. Well, that, my friends, is social cognitive. That's the whole theory that you watch something and you can learn just by simply watching that. Okay, now the whole idea originated from a gentleman by the name of Albert Bandura. Okay, and what he basically came up with was that there's 3 concepts to his process that is letting you know that modeling is just a way of learning. And he said through his first point that he wanted to make was that you, again, learn through observation, meaning, you do things, you see things, and you're able to do it. The second thing he said is that a lot of the learning is internal. It comes from internal mental stages. And the last thing he said was that because something is learned, it does not mean it will result in a change in behavior. So those are 3 core concepts that Albert Bandura came. And the first concept, the first part of the concept that he says learning through observation, he did a whole experiment with a Bobo doll. That's just a little blow-up doll. And what he did was he was testing aggression. What he did was actually videoed a person being very aggressive to the blow-up doll, hitting it, kicking it, punching it, doing things of that nature. And he showed this same video, the same behavior to a child who had no idea what a Bobo doll was. And of course, the child did the same behavior that he's seen being done to the Bobo doll in the video, and did the same thing, hit, punch, and just being very aggressive towards the Bobo doll. So that was the way that Mr. Bandura began his whole theory. He said that there's another part to the theory, a concept which he calls internal mental stages. That's that whole idea that you're born with some things, and that has a play on your ability to learn. And then lastly, he said because something is learned, that does not mean that it will result in a change in behavior. Means that just because you see something being modeled does not necessarily mean that you're going to always do that behavior. Okay, so that's the whole concept in a nutshell, learning through watching. And he also made the point that there's some necessary conditions for modeling to be effective. The first one he said was attention. There's a lot of things that will affect how much attention somebody will pay. Okay, because you can model day in, day out, but there's some things that are very, could very well affect how much attention is being paid. For example, if we're using this whole technique mostly in education, that's what this is all about right now. So we're trying to make you understand that, okay, there's going to be some things that's going to affect the attention of the kid. You got what was going on 10 minutes before, what's going on right next to the kid. How you come across as a teacher and as a presenter. All those things are going to affect the attention, thus affecting the ability to actually, retain the behavior. So another part, speaking of retaining, retention. Now, there's a part that's necessary to uncover because, it's just about how much the person can remember. You can teach and model and show day in, day out, but it's just going to matter about the person, how much they're able to retain as a person, their mental capacity. That has a lot to do with the social cognitive theory. And also, you have reproduction. Now, that just stems around the whole ability to do what is modeled, okay? Because you have to be able to do it, capable. You have to be physically capable. You could just think of, a one-handed person. I mean, they can't cross over to the left if they only have one hand. So you can model right to left all you want, but if they only have one hand, they're not able to really reproduce that same behavior. So, and motivation is the last factor that Mr. Bandura talks about, and that's just having a good reason to do what is being modeled in the very first place. You have to, have a reason to imitate what you're seeing. If it's either something that you like, it stimulates you some way, it's necessary to get to a next level, a lot of different factors. But those four things, attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation, are basically the concept in a nutshell that Mr. Bandura explored. So you can use that modeling, that imitation theory in education. Now you can use it to, get behavior results, like we were saying about classroom management, or you can use it in your instruction. Some examples. Let's see. If you want a kid to raise their hand and before they go to sharpen their pencil or something of that nature, you have to be consistent in your addressing of that particular behavior. You have to model good behavior in order to receive that. So if you allow a kid to go to sharpen their pencil, knowing that your rule is you must raise your hand, if you don't address it, then it's going to give the behavior that you accept that. And so you're not going to get the same results if you don't consistently address people not following your modeling strategy. So you have to be consistent. That's one of the things. And also education. I got a problem in modeling. I got a 5-year-old son. We're working on math. I didn't realize he could do multiplication, but he started doing 2 times 2, 2 times 4. And I just tried the whole modeling concept. We just did a number like 3 times 6. I told him that 3, instead of going with trying to tell him to write 3 6 times and trying to confuse him with all those numbers or make him remember all his 3s, all his 6s, I very simply came up with, okay, whatever numbers you have, son, you're going to have to write one of those numbers however many times. You're going to have to write the other number that many times. And he did that. We did the problem of 3 times 6. I told him to write 6 ones, but he's going to have to write 6 ones 3 times. He did that, and I told him, since you already know, he knows addition, you count what you come up with, and then you'll have a multiplication problem. And so we tried that same practice with the even bigger number and came up with a problem such as 25 times 3. He did 25 3 times, counted them all, came up with 75. So again, modeling and imitation is a great tool to actually instruct. And so that part of social cognitive theory is where we're really focusing on. And it's very simple. It's just a concept I'm sure you've all been doing, but we just want you to remain aware, okay, that they learn by watching. So if you do bad behaviors, then they're going to model the bad behavior. So you have to be very cognizant of what you're doing as a teacher and as an instructor, okay? So one of the questions I want to ask you all, I want you to respond to, what have you learned through observation? There's some things that you learned over time. How did you learn them? Okay, so if you could just respond to those questions, send them in, and write them down and answer them. I'll probably collect them after this. But that's just one of the questions. And then another question I want you to answer is, what are some of the consequences for not addressing behavior? We just talked about if you don't do it consistently, what could come about of not addressing improper imitation? So that's just 2 things I want you to talk about as you respond to me. Like I said, I am a librarian. I have to use modeling a lot. I use modeling as I, do my checkout process. Telling them and writing it down, having it posted, is not quite as effective as actually modeling my checkout process. I have to actually get up, show them how I want the books placed on the shelf, show them how to check out the book and use the place marker in order to hold your place. It's just a simple process that I'm sure we all use, and it's always good to do that. Alright, so I just want you to understand that whole process, and hopefully that you could, oh, it looks like I'm about to run out of time here. So, we're going to end on this note here. I have a little project I would like for you all to do. Alright, I just want you to quickly write to explain a scenario in which you think social cognitive theory would not work. Okay, a situation where, okay, showing somebody how to do something is not effective. They don't learn from that way. If you have a scenario like that, I want you to go ahead and send that in. And you can suggest an alternative approach. If you don't think social cognitive theory would work, what's your theory on how to get instruction or a particular behavior identified? This has been Kevin Dunbar. This is a presentation on social cognitive for EDU 1107. I'm looking forward to your responses.